analog horror to some extent is pretty saturated right now, but there have been a lot of extremely bold new creators that creep out of the woodwork to satiate our twisted minds. Primary among them, and probably my personal favorite artist in this space right now, is Dr. Nowhere, a long-term project created by 18-year-old Silas Orion and the originator of the Boiled One phenomenon, the Organator Enterprise, and a bunch of similar really cool projects. I've covered this channel once before and you guys seem to like it, but this video is special because I actually got to interview the one and only Dr. Nowhere, and he's going to be making an appearance later.
People genuinely responded to that. The people who told me that it was like, just made me cry, like in a good way.
So you have that to look forward to. In my opinion, analog horror is the scariest, not when it's jump scaring you, but when it can kind of get in your head to unsettle you. And the Doctor has done exactly that, blending found footage, retro aesthetics, and psychological dread into his newest work, the Oddity Compendium, which is basically like this educational collection of anomaly videos that feel like you've stumbled across a VHS tape in your attic and then you go to put it into the player and you realize that it's cursed. So I invite you to join me tonight as we dive deep and learn how to eat chairs. You may be asking yourself, what? Dr. Nowhere's Office of Wonders presents The Oddity Compendium, a beginner's anomaly education program. Welcome to the Oddity Compendium. Today, we will be learning about many wonderful and strange oddities that exist inside of, outside of, and around your universe. These strange phenomena can range anywhere from life forms, products, and organizations to even events and anomalous time periods. The following information has been acquired from realities that may be separate from the one you are currently residing in. Please be aware that knowledge or comprehension of incompatible information may result in a conscious reality fracture. What will we learn today? Well, number one, your own bed may be harboring a hunger for your flesh. Sleep with a cold fan on if possible. 2. If you ever walk downstairs one morning and your family is gone, interacting with the headless corpses that remain in their steads should be avoided. Non-existence is a contagious disease. 3. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and you get a rush of brilliant ideas, turn back immediately. Enlightenment is a drug, and the withdrawals can kill. Okay, so I know I touched on this in the previous video, but again, a big reason why Dr. Nowhere's stuff is so effective is the plausible reality that he creates, often using everyday events and occurrences and turning them scary. The creatures we learn about first are called mattress folk or fleshbeds. These creatures are a parasitic subspecies of human that resemble mattresses during their hibernation. And we learn that if your bed feels abnormally warm at night, it might be a mattress person or a flesh bed. Dr. Nowhere's the type of guy who would take the idea or concept of being in the shower alone and having weird or cool thoughts, and he'd take that idea and turn it into, there's a creature that lives in your shower head that feeds you ideas with the purpose of changing the course of human history. Anyways, let's learn about fleshbeds. Oddity number 1, fleshbeds, category parasite. Fleshbeds, or mattress folk, are a species of parasitic subhuman that highly resemble bedding mattresses. The body of a dormant fleshbed appears identical to a standard mattress. However, slicing the thin, sheet-like skin reveals many soft organs, limb-like appendages, and a humanoid head which hides beneath the skin. They were first discovered in the late 1960s when a mattress company was surveying excess storage. Upon finding many seemingly pristine mattresses that had not been sold, they gave them away to thrift shops and people in need. The people who received the mattress folk initially had no issues with the faux beds. It wasn't until the air began to warm up that these beds awoke from their uneventful hibernations. The first recorded victim was 19-year-old Alice... Hold up. Is that word's French for digest? She had been sleeping on a fleshbed for roughly 6 months before her sudden disappearance. After noticing the stench of sulfur and rot originating from her bed, her family called authorities, and the inside of the mattress revealed the feasting parasite, several hundred human bones, and the half-digested Alice. The descriptions are so well written that you can practically taste the sulfur in the room. The method in which mattress folk sustain themselves is by waiting for the body heat of a host to wake them from their dormant state, kind of like an egg, but not nearly as tasty. After they awake, they slowly unfold themselves from their soft, mattress-like bodies. This process is very gradual and happens underneath its body or on its side so as not to be detected. After roughly a month of this process, and on a night of 70 degrees Fahrenheit or higher, its head and arms fully emerge and pull the sleeping host into its body, where prey is slowly digested, a feast fit for a king. Not much is known about how these sleeping beauties came about, but it is theorized that since they are subhuman, they were once a branch of Homo sapiens that merged with a mycelial network many years ago. Autopsies of Fleshbeds' digestive systems have revealed DNA samples from thousands of different people in each instance, some even tracing to people born during the 1600s. Another odd thing to note is that the mattress folk themselves have DNA tracing to humans as well. One instance shared DNA and a blood type with Napoleon Bonaparte, leader of the French Republic during the time that the mattress folk were assumed to have come into existence. All in all, it might be a good idea to throw out that mattress that feels just a bit too warm lately. You might be sharing it with something unwanted. Good night, sleep tight, and don't let the bed bite. I love the guy taking us on a journey here. He's adorable. Even if he was filled with malicious intent, I would still trust that face, you know? But in all seriousness, the Oddity Compendium is a little bit different than stuff like The Boiled One or some of Dr. Nowhere's other projects. And it marks a shift in the channel's direction. You can see the origins of this as early as the Organator Enterprise, as early as the earliest videos on Dr. Nowhere's channel, where the bad guy was played for sympathy as opposed to fear. But here we're going even further. It's hard for me to explain exactly what I mean, but I'm going to try. Analog horror in general has a lot of tropes now, and a lot of them seem to take themselves very, very seriously. Not that that's a bad thing at all, but what Dr. Nowhere is doing is adding heart, humor, and meta commentary into the mix. And the formula is maybe a little bit less strictly scary, but there's more layers to it, and to some extent, his videos are far more interesting to me than your average, like, analog horror type of art. In this video, we have a narrator making little morbid jokes as we hear canned studio sitcom laughter in the background. There's a degree of separation that gives the viewer more room to interpret things as either malevolent or benevolent. It's more fun, there's a bit of irony involved. I don't know, I really like it. Oddity 2, the Headless Macrocosm. Category pseudo-location/disease. What the fuck? The Headless Macrocosm is a sub-reality nearly identical to Earth, save for the fact that instead of humans, pale, headless corpses remain in their steads. These corpses, though technically dead, do weakly breathe through the holes in their necks. Their hearts have also been observed to begin convulsing at seemingly random intervals. These beings are identical in appearance to one another aside from physical dimensions, which can vary severely between each corpse. The headless sub-people dwelling in this pocket reality have been observed changing their behavior when humans have physically interacted with them, and apparently gain a level of awareness and vitality when such events occur. There are approximately 2,393 living humans residing in this reality, all from parallel Earth. Every single resident recounts waking up in the Headless Macrocosm after falling asleep under strange circumstances back in their home realities. No one back in their own parallel homes remember their faces or identities, which leads to the belief that this place could be a form of anti-reality, a waste compartment of the universe used for aspects of reality that are useless or harmful to existential fabric. The humans that live in the Headless Macrocosm are assumed to be taking shelter in abandoned structures and banding together to search for plant-based food during the warmer times. The climate in this reality is often below freezing. Fun fact, humans have coined multiple terms and nicknames for these headless corpses, such as stumpies, cranes, and Ichabodies. The thought of an evil location is one of my favorite tropes in horror media. Like, the place itself is just haunted. I also want you to pay attention to how these are constructed. Let's deconstruct the format for a minute. Okay, so we're introduced to a concept first, and it's weird, so it's carefully explained to us in the abstract. Then, once we're a little bit more comfortable, Dr. Nowhere zooms in to a specific person or event. He takes his concept, then makes it a reality through an example that he creates. And then finally, he makes it personal. Just watch this. Despite this sub-reality being detached from main reality, an incident took place which created a temporary tear between the two. A man residing in the Headless Macrocosm was walking through a field with a small house in the center. Upon reaching the house, the man unintentionally brushed against one of the breathing bodies. This body, just before motionless aside from the labored convulsions, sprang to life and removed the head of the man. It then proceeded to attach the severed head to the stump of its own neck. The man's name was Michael Tedford. And then, I think because the creatures are a form of anti-reality, them killing him makes his name not appear in the rest of the video. Every time they try to talk about Michael Tedford, his name gets glitched out, implying that he's been essentially erased from existence. After the corpse had placed Michael's head where its own should be, an event occurred back on Earth in the year 2061 that resulted in governmental intervention. A family's call to the authorities described an impossibly tall, naked figure appearing in their backyard. The presence of this oddity was highly distressing to the family, and they remained inside their home until the situation was resolved. And we're about to see a photograph that depicts the person they speak of. Michael Tedford's rotting head is affixed atop its frail neck. Shortly after the photo was taken, what was left of Tedford's existence was removed from the premises and taken to an upscale anomaly testing site. Okay, and now we're going to get to the specific examples. And now it gets personal. It's directed at you and me. Now we're in danger. Apparently the corpse was attempting to quite literally become, and it looks like it says Tedford here, by leeching off of his existence. These breathing bodies appear to be in a constant state of yearning to reconnect with the roots of reality again, as they have been taken hold of by a dangerous and contagious disease. This disease appears to be non-existence itself. It can affect anyone on Earth at any time, and once it takes hold, the Headless Macrocosm deems you valid for residence within its endless meadows filled with fellow patients. But don't worry, it's a rare diagnosis. Ha ha. 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 Another fun fact, occasionally crude man-made structures will form seemingly out of nowhere in order to correspond with the structures on parallel Earth. As mentioned earlier, the Headless Macrocosm itself functions as a digestive tract of the universe, and these structures may be antibodies attempting to fight off the virus of non-existence. Now then, check your head. Is it screwed on tight? Great! Because you might want to hang on to it for this next one. Oddity 3, Obelisks of Enlightenment, category Enigmatic Divinity. The Obelisks of Enlightenment are a collective of monolithic beings that are currently residing in different remote locations across the world. Also known as the Fathers of True North, they appear in groups of 1 to 8 and stand anywhere from 10 to 150 feet tall. Each obelisk is levitating just barely above the ground and facing geodetic north. Though most of them reside in remote fields and deserts, they have also been found floating above the ocean within the vicinity of the Bermuda Triangle, and even on the moon. They are moving, ever so slightly, and progress approximately 2 inches forward a year. These obelisks are enlightened in the infinitely vast secrets of the universe, and are constantly vocalizing the excess information as a means of waste to counteract the overwhelming intake of knowledge. Though currently enclosed and monitored by government entities, many people had wandered into these locations prior, claiming to be following the sound of angelic singing. These might be my favorite of the entities. Their whole thing is that knowledge can be like poison in massive, indigestible quantities, and I think that that's a very relevant idea. During a decade or a few decades where just this unprecedented sheer amount of information from all over the world gets broadcast into our heads on a daily basis. And you've got raw information along with advertising, bad actors, lies and misinformation, sensationalism, whatever. I don't know that we've totally adapted to that yet, and taking that fear I have of becoming paralyzed with indecision because every decision just feels bad, and in the larger scheme of things, like it's very, very small and won't mean anything. And taking that fear and expressing it in art, I don't know, I think it's neat. This alluring hum from these obelisks induces a massive increase in general intelligence in subjects listening. Folklore often refers to the frequency as the song of the divine contour. Each obelisk's biological elements are unraveled thousands of feet into the sky to make a metaphysical connection from Earth to the universe. It is assumed that this is a form of knowledge worship, an attempt to make a mortal sacrifice for an immortal honor. Fun fact, these organs are confirmed to be those of the humans and other biological matter that were absorbed after Enlightenment. Upon perceiving the words spoken by the obelisks or entering into close proximity with them, the human brain either spontaneously expands and combusts or receives an ability to comprehend the sacred information. Whenever a subject is able to comprehend this knowledge, they are biologically absorbed into the obelisk, becoming wholly unified with the being. It is not entirely understood how these anomalies were brought into existence, but they seem to be tears in the fabric of reality, akin to black holes. Many speculate that these rips were opened by ancient giants who were dissatisfied with the lack of Earth's knowledge. Many unnaturally large humanoid skeletons have been found underground adjacent to obelisk sites, further supporting this idea. When the obelisks first made their debut on Earth, they aided in the construction of the pyramids of Giza by bestowing digestible levels of sacred knowledge into Egyptian pharaoh Khufu after he was lured into the desert by their beckoning chords. This knowledge would help him rationalize a possible blueprint and method for building these grand tombs, and they were made into the shapes of pyramids as a tribute to the divine structures. All in all, these obelisks may seem malevolent, but it's important to remember that no physical pain could ever outweigh the agony of infinite knowledge. Now, it looks like our time here may be almost up, but before you go, it's time for Bonus Entity! This one is fun because it breaks the fourth wall over and over again, as the video that we're watching gets infiltrated by an entity known only as Philbus. This is Philbus. It is not known where Philbus comes from or why he's here, but there have been a number of people who, after consuming media depicting Philbus, have felt the overwhelming compulsion to practice Philbism. Philbism is a political and somewhat religious ideology which centers around the belief that building/consuming chairs and other wooden furniture is honoring Philbus' great sacrifice. It is not clear what this sacrifice is or what it's referring to. Huge improvement from the last, I think. In Philbus I trust. What is that? Rustic pine? White oak, lol. Nice. In Philbus I trust. I love how singular the religion is. It's not we trust, it's I trust. Attributes and practices of philbism include learning to build chairs, learning to properly digest chairs, promoting or discussing chair consumption on obscure internet forums, praising the fictional political candidate known as Philbis who is said to advocate for making furniture consumption a socially acceptable and widespread practice. There are so many wonderful things about philbism. Consume the body of Philbis and become one with many others today. It's a great decision. Just eat your chair to get started. It's a great decision. Just eat your chair to get started. Any mention of philbism and elaboration on the subject will eventually result in it becoming a sponsorship or advertisement of sorts. We have no idea how to avoid this. Sorry. All philbists will deny the existence of philbism when directly questioned about it. This video is not in any way sponsored by philbism. This is for educational purposes only. Philbis doesn't even exist. You can sign up for philbism certification here. Consume the body of Philbis today. Eat your... Well, would you look at the clock? It's just about time for us to part ways. A brief cleansing process will now commence. This purely auditory experience will ensure you do not come away from this with any ailments from beyond contracted during your viewing experience. Please close your eyes and do not open them until told to do so. I'm going to show on screen right now, there's a couple things that pop up, but it's nothing crazy, and there's just some fun, weird noises playing. And then we're told we can open our eyes. Thanks for complying, and thank you for attending Dr. Nowhere's Office of Wonders. We hope that you enjoyed your stay. Goodbye. We love you. And that's Dr. Nowhere's Oddity Compendium, which I have on good authority. I can't say exactly how I know this, but trust me, I have insider knowledge. You have to trust me on this. I've been making moves in the industry. I have been switching lanes. There are, in fact, 2 white horses following me. I know things that none of you people know yet, and that's why you're here with me tonight. Oddity Compendium is coming back. Just you wait. Now, I got to talk to Silas Orion myself, which was really, really cool for me, because look, I'm a massive fan of his work, and I'm a very small YouTuber. His channel has like 500,000 subscribers. It'll make it to 1 million in a very short amount of time. And when I reached out to him, he responded back to me very quickly and was like, hey, I know who you are from the Jack Stauber videos. And also on Twitter recently, he cited my video about I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream as something that made him go back to the book. He made fan art of like Am, and he made art depicting stuff that happens in the book. And I think him saying that to me in a tweet might have been the highlight of my career so far. Because, like, think about it, right? I don't know any other artists online right now that could hypothetically capture the essence of what makes I Have No Mouth work. And I'm just so grateful that he let me interview him, seeing as I'm some random cryptid on the internet. Anyways, please welcome Dr. Nowhere. The full interview is over an hour long. You can find it over on Patreon, and this is a very edited version, but enjoy. Hello, Dr. Nowhere. How are you today?
What's up, man? I've seen your stuff around. I've seen your Jack Stauber dives a few times, so I knew your name. I was like, oh, I know this guy. I really like this guy.
Hell yeah. Holy shit, that's so cool. What was the inspiration behind the boiled one?
PTSD and, war has been, I've researched World War II, like, during various points in my life, whether it's for school, and the feelings I got from that in particular, just kind of the atrocities of it and how strangely recent it was. Like, I like to channel how I'm feeling into something I can produce. Like, I want to make something of, how I'm feeling about something. And sometimes that comes from, like, a good place, or it comes from, like, a place of sitting there and disassociating, like, trying to go through the motions of it in my own mind. Like, how would this be like? Like, I can't even fathom how horrible or how crazy that would be. And it's sort of me working through it in some way or another. But also, not only that, an equal part inspiration was definitely creepypasta. Like how when I was young, I'd be staying up late and, watching scary videos. Like, something my mom would be like, you should not be watching that. I wanted that kind of old Flash animation feel, that surreal, strange, like those movements and that kind of indiscernible face shape, that very recognizable facial silhouette was like, I want this to feel like something 7-year-old me would have been just completely wrecked by.
What's the most cathartic work you've made?
My most recent video, I don't know if this is going to be a topic later and I'm, spoiling it, but the most recent video I did, Where Did Life Go, which was just a complete departure kind of from what I normally do, because I felt like that's what I was feeling. Like, that's how I was feeling. And it was, there was a message in it and there were real feelings in it, and people genuinely responded to that. And it was just a different level of heartwarming to see the people who told me that it was like this, this made me cry, like, in a good way. And a lot of people in the comments of that video were saying like they were seriously considering committing suicide, like within, days or within, short periods of time. And it's like the video is very therapeutic to them. And it's like, I'm not going to go around saying I saved lives or anything, but like, even knowing that I provided momentary solace, like just for a moment, like genuine, real solace. And it's just, it's therapeutic knowing that I'm translating my message well, because it came across to people who are in a completely, like, a much worse position than I am. And it's like, it's good. I think that is like a good thing, that it's, it's coming across. And I don't think that any amount of negative comments or any jokes, like, that's not ever going to detract those feelings and that effect that I've already kind of had and want to continue to have. And that video in particular was very inspired, coming from, I was researching Kurt Cobain's life, actually, and that's a rabbit hole. That's it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and it was just the simple, bare bones truth that he kind of had technically everything. And think what you want. Think it's murder. Think it's something else. I personally am ambiguous, but I think the allegory in and of itself is like, a lot of people, it's talking about how material possessions and fame and money can drive somebody into the ground or bring them up. And I think it's like the life that the little sun guy leads, and this monotonous cycle, like, that can be sort of how that feels to not have any big things going on. And it's just like the malaise of it is worse than and it's like throughout my high school years have probably been like the loneliest of my life, I would say. I think just turning 17, or I'm 18 now, but like turning 17, things really start to change. But it's like, it truly felt like that no day was different for probably 3.5 years. And it's like that, like, the only thing that would break it up is what I was expressing.
What inspires the creatures?
I love creatures. Like, I love designing faces, and personally it's because I believe they're more relatable than humans in many ways. And now hear me out. I think it's because I think a lot of people, especially now, struggle with a lot of self-hatred and self-isolation. Like, they start to feel a little disassociated from themselves. And I think the internet might be part of that, in the sense that it's like, if you're not perfect looking, if you're not perfect this, if you're not perfect that, you're and as the kids say, you're cooked. I think that level of disheartening, like, it's very disheartening, and people sort of, they wake up and they view themselves kind of as monsters in many ways. And it's like, and I think that, like, using these creatures as a bounce off for, like, relatability, like, this foreign thing feels like you feel, and you feel sort of a little bit that much more attached, because it feels foreign, like how you feel foreign to yourself. And I think if I used regular humans, or if the video Where Did Life Go used a regular human to portray it, it wouldn't have hit that effect, because it wouldn't have felt like, I think a monster or an unfamiliar being is a little bit all-encompassing as a personification.
What's the artistic process like?
I almost always draw on paper first. If I have an idea in my head, because sometimes the design comes on accident. The boiled one was a culmination of like a couple years worth of random sketching that I just threw together one day. More often than not, design comes first. Sometimes I'll have an idea or a concept for a feeling, and most stories and videos I make come from an initial feeling that I want to invoke. And the methods of getting to that feeling often vary. The boiled one obviously was like, I wanted that sort of deep feeling of being still and not being able to get an image out of your head. And I think a huge portion of my drawings and my feelings they do come from dreams or pre-sleep visions, which is like as I'm falling asleep, I have visions like 100 miles a second from my subconscious, and I don't know what they are. They're just ideas that kind of spawn and remind my forward conscious that like, hey, this exists back here.
Hey guys, before I go, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. This last month was my best month on this platform after 7 years of doing this across multiple channels. And it's funny because I'm trying to turn it into like a full-time gig this year, and the amount of support that seemingly materialized out of thin air as soon as I made that intention like a grounded, actionable thing has been overwhelming, and just, I don't know, it's really nice. I feel less lost. So thank you for the support. The fact that I'm uploading a lot more frequently is directly correlated to the massive confidence boost that I've gotten from these last few uploads and just over the last few months. Anyways, thanks so much for being here. See you in the next transmission. Next week, we're going to be definitely talking about huge welcome to the newest enabler over on Patreon, Joyershk, who I'm going to refer to as Joy. Welcome in, and thank you to Joy, Tommy, Amelia, Boris, Pan, Thomas, Ray, Audrey, Justin, Lou, Ray, ZK, Tom, Dave, Elkie, Stardrop, Nude, George, Joseph, and Mr. Fox. I will see you guys soon. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.